So we're still a couple of minutes away. Great to see so many people registering. So the theme is definitely resonating with people.
Is this going to be recorded? Because a few of them asked me if we could share, but I wasn't sure, so I haven't replied to that yet.
So Sid, it will be, yeah. So it's recorded in the cloud. We'll probably put it on our YouTube channel. So I could send you that.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I can send you that link once it's done.
Because then I can repost it, just as a little bit more of a thing to drive traffic, to the program as well. Yeah.
Perfect.
Welcome, Brian, James. I hope I'm going to say this correctly. Knessia. I hope I'm not butchering your name. Linda, Melissa, Valerie, welcome. We'll give people a minute or two, Patrick, but they're coming in.
Yeah. Great to see so many people joining. When I was looking at some of the locations as well that people were joining from, registering from, that was great to see people not only joining from here, locally in Ireland, but from all around the world.
We'd love to have you on the program. You just have to fly in 2 times 2 days. And we've had people do that. We've had people certainly from Europe and the UK, and Sid, who's joining us today, is from the UK. So we'll give people a bit more time, shall we? A minute or two, Patrick.
Yeah, I can see people starting to join now, so we'll give them a minute.
I don't know if they've got access to the chat. It'd be lovely to hear where they're dialing in from.
For sure, yeah.
So and even what organization they're from. That would be lovely, just for others also to see.
Yeah, so the chat is activated. People are welcome to let us know where they're joining from. We'd love to hear that. And
I see a colleague from previous, so it's lovely to see that she's joining.
Please call out all the people you know, Heather.
Let me see. Hi, Valerie. Hi, Nicola.
Yeah. Hi, Valerie.
So again,
that's good. You probably have a few people on there as well that know you.
Still people joining. So again, I just want to give them another minute before we kick off things. Again, everybody's very welcome. Thanks for taking time out on your lunchtime on a Friday to be with us.
I recognize Megan, who I spoke to yesterday. So welcome.
So as people join, you're very welcome to pop into the chat, which is activated, where you're joining from. I was just saying there's not only people joining from here in Ireland, but from different locations around Europe. And as far as South Africa, I might blame you for that one.
You can blame me for that. And if there are any Australians on there, we should probably be sleeping. You're also very welcome. If you're from South Africa, give me a shout out. The Springboks will win tomorrow. We know that because they always win.
On the N11, maybe stuck in traffic.
Oh, James, careful. But thank you for joining, but please be careful.
Okay, so again, still people, I see that number continuing to rise there. So we will kick off now shortly.
I will share the slides along.
Oh, yes.
And just testing there, Patrick, if you can see them.
I can see that title slide, yes. Perfect. Okay, well, in the interest of time, I'll kick off and get going. So hi everyone, a very warm welcome to today's session. It's great to have you all with us. I'm Patrick Murray, I'm Head of Open Programs here at Smurfit Executive Development. So I'm conscious again that I just mentioned there's a large number of people joining from here in Ireland. There's also a good number of people joining from outside Ireland, across Europe and other places all over the world. So with that, I thought it might be helpful just to do a very brief introduction into UCD Smurfit Executive Development. So we are part of the UCD Michael Smurfit Graduate Business School, which is Ireland's leading business school. And we are ranked as the #1 provider of open enrollment executive education programs in the country. And that's based on the annual Financial Times rankings, global rankings. So we're proud to be in that position and work very hard to stay there. So we deliver a range of different types of programs for executives, We have 13 fully accredited professional diplomas at the moment, quite a diverse portfolio, ranging from leadership and management to AI and digital. So quite a diverse portfolio there, each of which form one of two unique MSc pathways. So those diplomas can be stacked to gain a larger qualification in either business leadership and management practice or business and executive coaching. We also have a portfolio of shorter, highly practical and immersive courses. So these are designed to really give managers and leaders new skills, new mindsets, new models and tools for immediate application in their roles and back in their organizations. Finally, in terms of SED and what we do, we also partner with organizations, both public and private, to design bespoke programs based on their strategic objectives. So the theme, we're getting onto the theme of today. We're going to be exploring the future of HR, adapting for strategic impact. This also forms the basis of one of our short executive programs of the same name. It's a relevant topic at the moment based on the level of signups we've had for today. And as HR continues to adapt to a world of kind of rapid change, and I know Marianne will be exploring that context in a moment. So I'm delighted to welcome Marianne as well. Marianne is Program Director on our HR program, and she'll introduce herself in a moment. I'm also delighted to have Sid Pednikar and also Heather Lowry with us. So two experienced HR leaders who have had the chance to kind of deep dive into some of these, the content, the models that Marianne is going to introduce and touch on today, having recently completed our program. So a warm welcome and thanks to Sid and Heather for joining us as well. The goal of the session, I want to be insight driven, provide you with insights and some real world experiences. So towards the end of the session then, we will take a quick look at the program itself, in case anybody would like to explore that further. So finally, quick note, if you do have a question, and we want this to be as interactive as possible, please do pop those into the Q&A. That should be activated. I'll monitor the Q&A, I'll monitor the chat, and throughout we'll intend to get to those questions. So please do make it interactive if you have those. Based on the agenda, I think we said we'd aim to finish anywhere between Q2 and 1. That probably will be driven by the Q&A and the kind of level of engagement there. But let's see how we get on. If we can give people back some time at the end of the hour, we will do so. So with that, I'm going to hand it straight over to Marianne to introduce herself and kick things off.
Thank you so much. It is one of my favorite things to run with some of my favorite cohorts. I cannot tell you what a fantastic group of HR leaders we work with here at UCD Smurfit when we run these programs. My interest in this really comes from 30 years of working in strategy and leadership and HR transformation and leading as an HR director and consulting as a consulting partner and teaching as a business school professor, really on these topics. I'm really interested in how HR, or people and culture as we often call them now, are driving strategic growth in businesses. I'm really not interested, I don't know about you, in being a kind of HR leader that drives processes and policies. That really is not the interesting bits. I think that's why I love AI. I love that we can have amazing productivity improvements and service delivery in a very different way to our employees and our leaders so that we really can spend time, which I think is so necessary in today's world where skills are changing so fast and where we have what we've just called radical uncertainty, where we can really help our organizations make sense of that, and also where we can start to become the function that really drives it. We are the people, and it is about the skills, and it is skills in a very uncertain world. And that's really what I want to take you through, how we kind of see this. The book I wrote was Adaptive HR. Of course, the world changes, so it probably needs another update again. But I want to take you through what I've seen in 30 years, hopefully in the new context, the 10 interrelated aspects of what we call adaptive HR, the key to becoming a future fit function. And it's not something you do overnight. It's something that you build, but you have to build it intentionally through this process. I really do believe that. So we start with, I think what we're not doing well right now is, have we made sense of collectively as an HR team and helped our executives and our boards and whichever, if you're in government, understand what is this future of work implications for us? Because if we've not understood that, it's actually really hard to then have a people strategy that's competitive and understands the risk profile and that helps us to drive agility, capability, and experience, which is what we're now responsible for. And together with that, inside that same strategy, I often see what is really missing is how we need to transform ourselves and our operating model. In fact, a lot of my clients have no HR operating model. They also have no target interaction model. They pop AI and all these things in, but there's no structure to how are we interacting with our clients. So that's really important. Those first three bits, we can't just play there on the right. We have to get those bits right. And then the bits that we implement are, we make sure that we create really compelling and hopefully digitalized and AI-enabled employee experiences. And again, I go in and everybody's doing bits of it. We've done the onboarding process, Marianne. We've done the certain offboarding processes, but nobody's looking at personas end to end and really looking at moments that matter and pain points. And co-creating it in design labs with service design and user-centered principles. And once we've done that, we really also have to build a skills ontology, a skills framework, and understand what we have and don't have so that we can drive. This is now because the AI and we're delivering great experiences, we can now turn our attention to skills. And all of those things above, we do digital first. We sort out data, we automate AI and augment. There's a 30% productivity opportunity there for us. And once we've got that, now we can focus to modernizing our organization development and design and leadership and culture pieces, which we don't get time for because we're so embedded in 4 or 5. But we need to start to really become transformation partners, drive generative change, new ways of looking at change in radical uncertainty, new ways of designing organizations when we're skill-based and we need agile project teams, new ways of creating leaders that can lead in uncertainty and teams that can be high-performing and psychologically safe. And finally, we need to influence and partner with the C-suite, the boards, and our senior layers. We're not showing impact enough, and we're not really politically savvy enough. We're a little bit too shy about what we're doing. We need to market ourselves and brand ourselves better. So those 10 things together for me, they long-term things we do, but they fit. So just a little bit about each one. Making sense of future of work means that we understand that we are now in 2025. I think between 2025 and 2030, maybe my 2 guests will speak about that. We're in for probably the most radical transformation of organizations and work that we've ever seen because we have AI, robotics, and data. And AI agents, huge difference, and quantum computing. And if you say, Marianne, I don't know what you're talking about, that's a problem. You need to upskill yourself because you need to be able to talk about this. Together with, after COVID, flexible and hybrid working, which has made it really complex. So what people are doing changing, where they're working is also changing. And the skills they need are also radically changing. Job descriptions are no longer going to be the way forward. We're going to work with skills and skills are going to flow to work. And I tell you what, everything in HR we've been doing from job descriptions to job grading to pay is going to collapse. And we are very scared of that. So you need to know how to do that. And then, as we know, we're sitting where people they want to work for organizations that care about the climate and that has ESG, not performative ESG, but ESG that has environment, social, and governance in it, meaningful inclusion. Forget the culture wars. This is a critical differentiator for you to be an organization of belonging and inclusion, and one of well-being, and one that still comes up a lot. How do we manage generational differences? Heather Lowry sits in Unpost, such an interesting one. You know, a lot of postal services have got aging workers. right? So what do you do? And of course, these people are picking up packages here that are heavy. So now we have to think about their well-being. So have you made sense of this? Do you have a clear point of view inside your organization about what does this mean for us? That is both informing your business strategy as well as your people strategy. Then we build the strategy. We say, right, now that we understand that, let's rethink how we hire, who do we need in here, how do we upskill our organization, and how is AI and technology changing work? I want to see that in your people strategy, and I want to see how you've built that talent triangle. This is even a model Heather and Sid hasn't seen before, because I keep on trying to see what is the latest thinking. And then this operating model, this is probably the biggest shock for HR. And I love the word Volker Jacobs and the people have done at TI. We still have the Ulrich model. Poor Ulrich, he is not to blame for this model. It was a great model, and he himself is saying we need to move on from it. But we are so wedded to this, COE and business partners and people services. But what really is going to happen, and I think it's going to happen in the next 4 years, by 2030, we will need to be diamond shaped. We will need to have service managers. Imagine that's our service delivery end to end from joining to leaving. And a lot of that will be AI enabled, self-service, digital, mobile. We will be doing the bits that really matter, but people will be getting a lot of their work done with the AI and the bots and the agents. So there'll be less of us. At the moment, that's the largest part of our HR team. There'll be less of us. We need to reskill our people to sit in the middle as problem solvers, right? What business problems are coming in? Are we merging? Are we changing structure? Are we automating things? Are we moving? And business impact. And those are what we now call business partners will, in the end, be a pool of problem solvers in HR that work on cross-functional end-to-end projects that really impact. And at the top, we will start to have a model like IT, product managers. We will have people who are developing products. And we might say that's our old COE. We will have somebody who helps us design the onboarding product and takes responsibility for keeping that up to date. We'll have somebody who will have the grow and develop product. So I wonder, and you can please put comments and questions in the chat. We said future of work, people. Maybe you're going, oh my goodness, Marianne, how does that work? But this is the first 3 bits critical. Then, as we roll out that service experience at the bottom, it's not just HR that delivers employee experience. You will see Moderna and certain companies merging HR and IT, and we talk about that. What does that look like? Because it's actually a super team that delivers the employee experience end to end, not HR. It's HR, IT, comms, right? That comes together to say the person comes in, they join, they have their computer, they understand how to use the systems. We're communicating well to them. And so we're starting to talk about an experience operating system. And how do you put that together? So once we've got that service delivery, we can now turn our attention to our skills conundrum, right? And really think about how our skills are matching between the employee and the organization, right? How can we increase talent flow and skill building, transparency and fairness in development, better engagement with projects, with people's skills and interests, better fits, a clear picture of our collective capabilities and where we have gaps and where we can partner. And are we going to recruit or are we going to develop? We need to make some real strategic choices here. And we help our employee by giving them a career development dialogue and options, easy ways to, like a skills academy at Standard Chartered, where they can develop their own skills. And we want them not just to develop skills, but also their interests and their strengths for vertical moves, lots more vertical moves, and help them drive those career paths and help them expand their networks. And this unlocks so much energy, engagement, and capability. And then we make sure that as we build that experience and as we build that skills, that it really is enabled by AI and digital. There's a 30% opportunity. This is the BCG document for us to do this better, smarter, more engaging. streamlined, automated, personalized, feedback, predicting issues. There's so much we can do there. Patrick, one moment I'm done here, I'm going to get you to see if there's any questions. Then we have to really update our OD capability. This is the problem-solving part. We're still wedded to old change management. Now, if anybody has tried to manage any change in their partner or children, send me the book because it'll sell for millions. We can't actually get anyone to change. So how do we engage our people in generative change on our biggest challenges in a different way, in a possibility-focused future, in a way where we're doing little experiments and probes all the time to try new things? And people are really bought into that. And we then scale them up. We don't design the thing and then manage the change, because that doesn't work. So we need to update those models. We need to update organization design. It's so difficult. I think it's the most difficult thing to get right. Do we need to move to skills-based organizations, helix organization design? Managers can't do everything anymore. We need maybe people to live in a human resource bubble, like the capabilities manager that oversees my career path, my skills, my performance, but my people work on projects like in a talent marketplace. And that's the value creation manager, where they are day-to-day delivering, and the two managers work together to make it happen. What does that look like? And do we have the right leadership development so our leaders can lead this complexity? And this is my model in another program, Patrick, that we have here, which is Leadership Fit for the Future of Work. We've done research to say, what are the 6 mindsets and capacities and practices of leaders that thrive in the future of work? Not the old competency models. Are your leaders ready for this? How are you designing and delivering their development? And finally, back to you. Are you a future-ready, high-risk CHRO? Are you strong on leadership, those purple things, technology and data, financial acumen, business acumen, strategic talent development, and systems thinking? That is where we have our impact. That is how we show up in the organization. So that was a whistle-stop tour through the 10 things that we see as absolutely critical. I'm going to stop, Patrick, for a moment. Are there any questions or comments before we go to Q&A?
No, so not yet, because I'd imagine people are digesting, because there's quite a bit there. Maybe just one for me, kind of listening in to get us going. What are the things you see from, I suppose, maybe your client work in terms of what's holding HR functions back in kind of making the initial shift towards the more adaptive HR model?
I think 3 things. One is that they've not nailed the skills thing. They're not becoming skills-based organizations. They don't know the skills they have. They don't know the skills they need. They don't know the gap, and they're not employing it through org design. 2 is, Sid would probably agree, AI and automation, very slow, low on the list of the IT priorities, just not getting out of that manual, bad data, that bad reporting, not able to predict things. And 3 is they're still working in silos. Training, recruitment, L&D, they're not working cross-functional end-to-end in a way that really delivers employee experience and impact. So I think it's a good way to now go to Sid and Heather and hear what they have to say. And Sid, I'm going to start with you. You joined the program when you saw what was in there. Why did you join it?
Yeah, hi, Marianne, and hello, everyone. And yeah, great question. I think for me, I've had a combination of roles. So I've done senior people roles and also my own consulting practice. And I wanted something that really challenged my thinking, to be honest. And there's lots of courses out there, but I wanted something which really gave me the practical tools to implement as well. And I also think that sometimes as a practitioner, you have to upskill yourself, right? So if you think about the Leadership 4.0, I think us as HR leaders spend very little time in upskilling our own software, right? Like I like to call it. So how do you upgrade your own operating system as a practitioner? And that was the key for me in terms of coming onto this program. And I know we spoke at length before I came on as well. So for that was the main draw, really, Marianne, in terms of how and why were my motivating factors. So yeah, that was my main motivation for coming on the program.
So the next one for you, Heather, and then I'll come to you. What was your most important takeouts?
Is that for me or is that for
No,
Sid?
that's for Sid still. Then I'll come to you.
Ah, okay,
Perfect.
cool, excellent. I think for me was coming back to your point earlier that you made around change, Marianne. You talked about change, and as HR professionals, I think we've all done change management. But for me, the real eye opener was generative change. Having done and worked with many of the big consultancies and their change approach, I think the days of Cotter have come and gone, to be honest.
Yes.
Bless him. But we need to really rethink our model around change, and that was the key. One of the key takeaways for me was this model around generative change. So how do we build the burning platform from change? And real transformation for me through learning that model is that change comes through dialogue and being iterative, right? Not by force. And that was the key takeaway for me. Also, the whole conversations around skills. I know everyone talks about it. It's lots of things around skills-based talent management, especially in my world and in Heather's world for sure. But how do we actually make that happen? So how do we start with the skills taxonomy? And more importantly, how do we create the right conditions for skills to thrive? For instance, when we talk about capability, not hierarchy, we talk about learning agility and how do we enable the skills-based workforce to have that agility. And finally, for me, it was the leadership 4.0 shift. And I know you run that parallel program with the other cohort as well. But it is, for me, to sum it up, it's being human, and that whole piece around human-centered design. How do you stay contextual to the market and the forces that operate within that market, and self-authoring? How can leaders lead the change to that constant self and not this kind of everyone's doing it, so let's kind of do it boat? And how do you thrive in uncertainty? I think those were some of the key takeaways for me that really helped me and are still helping me enable my practice as well.
Fantastic. Heather, what attracted you to the program?
I think for me, it was very much around needing, I suppose, the freshness, the new. We know that the world is changing. You mentioned radical uncertainty. We know we future work. The conversation is all about remote in the office, whatever. We know skills are changing, AI. And I genuinely felt myself, my teams and my colleagues were trying to solve the same problems with the same old models. And the interesting thing was when we got into the classroom, everybody was doing the same, and, you mentioned Cotter, like you mentioned Ulrich. Again, it was back to that, for me, the biggest, insight overall, and you said it this morning, was around the old models don't work anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. But we're still kind of using them, the unfreeze, the freeze, etc. And there was a tendency for me and my team to do this plan change that Sid mentioned, go into a corner, go away for 6 to 9 months, build out the change, do all of the personas, etc., and then come back. The world has changed by then. And the other thing was really about what you mentioned about getting, I suppose, into that C-suite and really selling our impact. And what kind of resonated with myself was around really knowing our business, really aligning our HR strategy to business outcomes. And look, I think that phrase has been around for a long time. Of course, we'll align it, but are we really aligning it? Are we actually looking at the business outcomes, the risk, the external environment? And are we really showing, I suppose, the C-suite, the impact work that we're having? So I think for me, it was getting that freshness, new models, new take, and certainly upskilling myself as well.
And Heather, have you taken anything forward in the organization? Have you been able to apply any of this? Is there some work in progress there?
Oh, there's absolutely work in progress. I'm laughing because I have one of my team on, and I think I have 2 colleagues on as well, so they can back me up. So I think the big immediate things I could bring back was dialogic OD and the whole idea that Sid mentioned around generative change versus plan change. And I brought that back pretty much to the whole team, but mainly my culture and change team. Again, they were going off, doing something for a couple of weeks, you know, all of that. So they really appreciated that. And then only recently, and I'm laughing because the team know I did this, we did, myself and my team did a complex problem solving session.
Okay.
And it sounds so basic, but the problem is we're solving, one, are we solving the right problems? Secondly, are we trying to solve the same problems with the same models, with the same ways? And I think as a head of COE, possibly not in the future, but again, as the head of COE, we do have pre-planned solutions in our head. So we're like, yeah, of course, that's leadership development. Absolutely, we'll do a new program, off we go. So we did the workshop, and actually one of the managers came out and said, oh my God, Heather, I'm solving the wrong problem. And it was around recognition kind of program. So they were really, really good. And you'll be delighted to know that I'm working on a spec for a product manager for onboarding, just to say, I know we're getting there, that this is end to end, because we've done a big transformation. But again, we're siloed in our thinking. So, you know, as an organization, we want to look at what does onboarding look like for a post person? What does onboarding look like for somebody in our retail offices, corporate center? How can we streamline that and make it just amazing for everyone? So we're looking at that, certainly that project manager. And then finally, the skill set, we were always looking at that, but now it's on the L&D agenda that we really need to build that taxonomy. So, and we'd already started with Marianne, had us building out future skills for the post person of 2030. So, so it really got us going and got us thinking.
I tell you what, you're also two of the most incredible participants, but I think people get a sense of what kind of participants we have in this program in the cohort just by listening to the two of you. And so, Sid, why should anyone join a program like this?
I think the key thing for me is if you really want to make change happen, if you want to change your mindset and challenge your own thinking around how some of the traditional models have changed. So what I'm saying is it's not about dismissing some of the older frameworks that perhaps might have worked for you. I think it's about adopting a fresh new approach and thinking about how is it going to matter for you? Because like, you know, seconding what Heather said as well, is around how do you lead your leaders in terms of change as well? And as the role of HR becomes increasingly complex within this ecosystem, I think it's about equipping yourself and the leaders with the right tools for this change, and more importantly, this mindset shift to happen. So if you're really curious about how that works, through practitioner-led insights, through practitioner-led case studies, for me, that was an eye-opener. For instance, how we did the target interaction model, right? So having done lots of org design and org changes, I think for me, that was a key thing. Like, how do I practically apply that? And that has helped in my own work within consulting as well. And that has helped me sharpen my practice. So I think for anyone who joins this, I think not only will it be an eye-opener, I think it's an opportunity to take away the practical tools, the case studies, through a wide variety of those different industries that we talk about, and really try and applying it to your own work. That self-introspection and the ability to take it away and then apply it in your work, I think is powerful. And we don't see that often enough. So that was it for me.
And Heather, from your side?
I think for me, as someone who is very kind of, come on, let's get this done, action orientated, it just fit perfectly, because within, I'd say, an hour and a half of our first in-person workshop, so do you remember, we were all drafting our organization's people strategy. By the end of that, before lunch, we had talked about new operating models. We had talked about interaction models. Then we began talking about skills-based organization. Next minute, we've actually got as I mentioned, a role profile of a post person in 2030. So for me, it was really practical, really action orientated. I was really doing things. It wasn't the big theories over here. And to Sid's point, you know, it wasn't dismissing. It was just all about adaptive. The world is changing, and so must we, kind of thing. So I think it was really, really thought-provoking, practical. And I do have to mention, like, you know, we had great access to guest speakers who were they're all global based. So some of their ideas and what they're doing were, oh my God, so radical, and that we'd never have heard about them before. They were so radical that we were saying, oh, we couldn't do that here in Ireland, or we couldn't do that as a public sector. And in fairness, Marianne was like, why not? And she wouldn't leave us alone until we found a way to actually do something similar, maybe not as radical. But again, I think it was just different tools. You know, we've got the tools that we got from our friend in terms of the canvas and all of that. So I think having access to global speakers who are doing amazing things just kind of really helped me think about the art of the possible. So I think if somebody is really wanting that freshness, newness, and practical, and I tried, Marianne, to get it in one line. I think it was my one line is refreshing, innovative masterclass in adaptive, really new HR. So I think that was it for me.
Love it. We'll steal that. Thank you. Thank you two so much. If there's any questions anybody had for me or Heather and Sid, pop it in now, because I'm going to quickly tell you about the program and then we will just have a chat. Yeah. So they will tell you it runs over 6 months. There's a very specific reason for that. If we put you in for 5 days and I threw all those things that you said in, Heather, it would have been a bit much. So we want to make sure we're spreading it out so that, you know, you've got 2 in-person days. And that makes it, that was lovely. That cohort just really came, oh, there was so much excitement and joy. And people are from sport and from government and from startups and from, you know, and from private sector. It is such a beautiful mix of insights, isn't it? And it's exciting to see, and people are senior, and people are really people who are open to the learning. But in between, we have 3 2-hour live webinars because, you know, it just fits into people's lives. But the thing I really love is what you've mentioned. We also have podcasts, and I'll keep refreshing those because there's always new things happen. There's pre and post work, but they're not academic, they're videos, they're case studies. But I also love a good little nudge in between, in the weeks where you're not doing any of those things, just getting an email to say, you know what, here's a little 15-minute video for you or a little tool you can use, because that's behavioral nudging. But you will get real frameworks, real tools, and we work on real challenges. So with this cohort, checking again, yes, let me just move, starts in April, moves through to November. So lots of time, but I'd say, Patrick, probably earlier you put up your hand, the better, because we already have some people. Also to tell you, our cohort came from Europe, across Europe, and they came from the UK and Ireland. There was a lot of other interests from around the world, but if you're happy to fly from South Africa for 2 times 2 days, we'll have you. Come and have a wonderful time with us. But that is how it works. But you're very welcome, and we love it when you join us from there. Here are some of the people that they've heard from. Sam Fernando, she works with the inner development goals. She works at Oricon, which is an award-winning engineering design firm. Morgan Williams, I think everybody enjoyed. He's a human-centered designer who's using AI, and also a human resource practitioner and psychiatrist, just beautiful guy. Kirsty Chadwick works across Saudi and South Africa and around the world and runs the training room online. She is building the future of skills in Saudi Arabia right now, and it's all learning experience design. Gustavo is who Heather alluded to. He's a culture expert. He has wonderful culture canvases. Jeff actually joined me live, is my AI and tech stack expert. We really need that. And who I couldn't get in person this time or online, but will be in the future because we've just started a project with him with the Irish government, is Ravan Jasuthasan. He is the man for skills-powered organizations around the world. So there'll be more. These great organizations. I look at who's in the cohort and I try and make sure that we cover case studies from your cohort. So if there's financial services, I'll try and bring that in. If there's engineering, if there's government, we'll try and bring it in. I think it's really important that we make it as as good as we can for you. I love Cleveland Clinic. They're one of my absolute favorites in health. They are so far ahead of the pack. So you'll get a lot of that. And I hope you will join us, but also if you're not going to join us, please ask questions now that would help you. Please take away some of these ideas and start playing with them. Please just contact me and follow me on LinkedIn. But if you're interested, please, Patrick, I'm going to hand back to you for a moment and see if there are any questions, and then you can also say how people can reach you. But back to you, Patrick.
Yeah, so there are some questions here, and most likely driven from your initial kind of content piece. So there's one from Doreen, which is around the CHRO profile, and maybe taking a closer look at that again, in a bit more depth on the findings of the study. What are the critical gaps?
Yeah, so this is a Russell Reynolds study. There are other studies as well, but I really like this. So this study, they looked at leading CHROs that really had board C-suite's ear, that really drove strategic outcomes, and just the general other CHROs around all of those capabilities and mindsets that you see there. Yeah. And what they found is the biggest gaps between the other CHROs and the leading CHROs were in those areas that are in purple. They were simply better at strategic talent development, knowing when to recruit, knowing when to develop, knowing when to partner, having those skills ontologies. They were better at systems thinking, which is what Heather was alluding to, that we look at adaptive problems, not just technical problems, the complex problems, and help the organization make sense of whether we're solving the right problem and whether we are making sure we understand the whole system and not just a little bit of it. They were strong leaders. They were showing up as leaders in how they presented, how they communicated, how they did their business cases. They were really literate in technology and data. They didn't wait for somebody. They could bring their use cases to the AI teams, really great business cases about if I shorten a time to recruit by 5 days, I save this much. If I put this, they really could have those conversations. Financial acumen, I think, is a non-negotiable. Understanding how the business makes money, understanding how the business delivers a service. You've got to be able end to end, and the same with business acumen. Like Heather said, know that business really well. Know what bothers people across each part of it, pain points, moments that matter, customer pain points. I hope that answers your question. That was really, the other things were all there, communication and so on, but these were the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that set apart the leading CHROs. And so we get into that a little bit. Yes, Patrick, back to you.
Great, and thanks for that question, Doreen. There's a couple from Liz. So the first is employment legislation is still driving much of the operational HR activity. Until we reduce time consuming ER work, it is hard to concentrate more time on value add areas like the 10 steps of adaptive HR. Any advice here?
I'm going to throw that to Heather because you're seeing it real time.
Marianne, like this wasn't rehearsed, you know.
I know, but I know you're sharp.
So I suppose in terms of it is moving away from the policies and procedures. I suppose for me, it's very much around, I suppose, from the legislation piece, it's very much linking them back to, I suppose, the work that we do, how we actually do it. And it's probably changing in our organization in terms of, you know, we're trying to focus more on what the policy is trying to do versus, you know, moving the legislation and what's important. And we are trying to highlight that, you know, what's actually going to make the biggest impact in the organization. I think we get obsessed with policies, and I know our own CEO, you know, has been working with us in terms of saying, you know, how can we cut down some of the bureaucracy, some of what we need to do. Sometimes we can't is the answer, and you know, as you said, sometimes we can't, but certainly it shouldn't be number one in terms of the agenda. And I think for me, that's where it is, that we know where it is. And as long as it's supporting us, because I think in the past that has limited us in OnPlus. And I know my colleagues are on the call in terms of working on something really strategic. So I think it's a balance, but I think it's not getting so ingrained that that's all you're known for in HR. So hopefully that helps.
I think it does. And I'd come back to the 10 and you'll see it in there if you look carefully. So I think what we haven't got is we're not driving those policies and legislation in terms of how we use them and simplifying and integrating and updating them, even in terms of those first three boxes. What does it look like in the future of work? What is our people's strategy and your risks? It's in your risks. It needs to be clearly defined in your risk. And what's your risk appetite? Some things you need high lockdown risk. Other things should be much more flexible and agile. But you need to know that. And sometimes you need to take a bit of a chance and a risk on something to shift the dial. And then your own operating model, you need to make sure that anything that is deeply manual, that you're not able to get good data insights on, that's probably where you trip a lot in terms of your workload. You really need to build that digital AI first employee experiences and understand the pain points, but not over engineer it. Start with a minimum viable design. And the other word I love is minimum viable bureaucracy. The least steps with the least sign-offs to meet quality and risk requirements, rather than designing for everything that can go wrong and every policy point. I think we over engineer it.
There's a comment from Rena as well. So I don't agree on dismissing Cotter. The model has been updated and we use it to lead our ERP network in 28 countries. My experience as a Cotter, my experience as maybe a Cotter practitioner, certified change practitioner.
You don't have to throw away everything. You can still use Cotter. I think what we have to be careful of when we look at transformation is there's going to be times when Cotter and very systematic makes sense. And there's going to be time where things are so complex and uncertain, and you need a very different way where there isn't a burning platform and a step-by-step process, where you need to use much more of a dialogic, you need very different open dialogic and what we call generative change processes. So I think you need to verse yourself in both and then really use your judgment, but not just hang on one model, whether it's Cotter or anything else, freeze, unfreeze, refreeze. Because in radical uncertainty and constant change, some of those models do not deliver the outcome. In fact, we still have 75% failure on large change and transformation projects. So we need to see where does it make sense and where does it not make sense. And sometimes we need to combine Cotter with dialogic OD and generative change. And I don't think we've made that shift. I think we are quite wedded to quite a systematic linear process, Cotter or not. But certainly there's going to be times when it works really well for you and where your culture is really bought into it. And absolutely keep doing it, but add on the other perspectives.
Thanks, Marianne. And Rena, hopefully that is useful.
You can comment, Rena, if that was helpful.
Yeah. And there's maybe this might be the last question that comes through. It's another one from Liz. Another question, are company values still regarded as the foundation of organizational culture? Is it still best practice to build models of values, behaviors, competencies, and building these into HR processes, performance management, TA, etc.?
I'm going to let both my guests answer, and then I will also answer. Sid, I'm going to start with you. Love to hear your view.
Oh, thanks. So yeah, great question. I think values haven't changed, to be honest, but and the fact that companies are placing a lot of emphasis on it hasn't changed. What has changed, however, in my view, is how you activate those values. In my own work, I've seen companies, obviously use values and then they're codified really into behavior models and competencies, which are then, used in their performance and talent management systems. What this doesn't allow for is change, in my view, and especially adaptive change. What tends to happen is these models then tend to remain static. They don't evolve as the business evolves. And in today's business landscape, you need a model that is constantly evolving with the business as well. Hence, the earlier reference around skills-based taxonomy and so on. So I think culture is still relevant, very, very relevant. And having values underpin that culture is very relevant. But how it's explored is more dynamic, it's more emergent, and how people codify them or I should say adapt them into their businesses, into their processes, using systems thinking is the way to go forward. And through this program, it's actually enabled me as a practitioner to think about it in that sort of transient way, where yes, absolutely, your culture underpins and your values underpin everything that you do, but it has to evolve. You have to be prepared to make bold statements. You have to be prepared to challenge the thinking. And for me, even in my 15 years of practitioner, as a practitioner, I think it's about culture moving away from the printed values on the wall to more of a thing around where people actually live it on a day-by-day basis, day-to-day basis. It's about the conversations you have. It's about the richness that those people bring into those conversations that really, really showcase the culture and the values. And that's what real culture and values for me is about. And as HR practitioners, I think we all have a sense of responsibility to really help our leaders make that shift, right? And help that mindset shift, especially around what does culture actually mean? What do values actually mean for our organization? And more importantly, how can we use those values as a base to creating better work, to creating better conversations, to making an impact on our people and our practice? So yeah, that's what I'd like to contribute.
Beautiful. Heather.
Yeah, just not to repeat everything Sid said, but I think for us, especially in On Post, it's very much around our purpose. Our purpose drives everything we do. And again, it goes back to understanding your business, what's the drivers there, and how we can translate that into culture. Again, I think it's about how you feel. We're moving away from on the wall. We're moving away from, and us in On Post, we've actually moved away and just moved to three very simple, I would call them three simple behaviors. One's around continuous improvement, one's around our customer, and the third one is about our people, and it's about include everyone, show respect and recognize success. So again, to your point, Sid, it's not that you throw them out. I think the old style maybe of how we looked at them and lived every day in performance management, and it's more about how we feel in the organization. What are the behaviors we're seeing? What can be replicated? What can't be? So they involve. But then back to the ESG piece, it's very much around purpose. When we think of generations coming on board now, and our alphas and our Z's and all of that, they want to see what's the purpose, what's the impact this organizing is making, and then they'll make their decision. So it's less about actually what are the values of the organization. They'll feel that the minute they actually go in. So
I couldn't have answered that better. The only two comments I'd add is that there's a big piece of leadership work here to be done. Leaders are not good at storytelling. They're not good at demonstrating and elevating up what good values behaviors look like. They are poor at confronting bad behaviors. So the culture drops to the lowest common denominator. So they really need to take responsibility for that. And third, in my program, I literally include ethical and moral reasoning, because they will have a lot of moral dilemmas where there is no right answer, and it's tricky, and it could be interpreted as going against our values. You might have, I care for employees, and then we cut staff, and then people go, right. So you really have to help them to reason through moral dilemmas and be able to explain their decisions that they make in that context. Otherwise, it's very quick to erode those values and behaviors that you state. Patrick.
Fantastic. So thank you, everybody. I think we might be able to give people a few minutes back before, if people do have a 1 o'clock meeting, time to get a cup of coffee or whatever. So thanks a million. Thank you to everybody for joining. Really appreciate everybody coming along at lunchtime. I want to thank Marianne for your input today. Thanks so much. Always great to hear your insights, and love delving into this model. It's not our first webinar together, but learn something new every time. Heather, Sid, thanks as well. Thanks for being a part of today. So we really do appreciate that. It's always great to have recent participants involved in these sessions. So thanks all. Again, if my team, we're coming to the end of our recruitment cycle for a lot of our autumn 2025 programs. We have a whole host of diplomas and short courses now that we're launching for spring 2026, one of which is the future of HR adapting for strategic impact. So the best way to learn more about the program, if you're interested, is to go to the program webpage. You'll probably find my contact details there in the kind of contact us section. You can reach out to me directly on patrick.murray1@ucd.ie. And I'll happily set up a conversation with anybody if you do want to connect and you're interested in the program. So we'll probably cap that program at 20 to 24 participants. We're already probably a quarter of the way there in terms of recruitment. So do indicate your interest if you are potentially considering it. So thank you very much, everyone, and have a great weekend when it comes.
Thank you, everyone. Oh,
Thanks,
thank you,
everyone.
Sid and Heather. You were extraordinary
Thanks for
as
having
always.
us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marianne. Thanks,
Thank you.
Patrick. See you
Bye-bye.
soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, guys. You were amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I'll see you soon, Sid. Hopefully I'll see you soon. Heather, I'll see you
Yes, see you
very
soon.
soon.
See you soon. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Marianne.